This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Adam Lang.
Good morning, Michael.
With Sean Aylmer enjoying the last few days of his, a September holiday. It's not even a summer vacation or a winter vacation. He's just kind of chosen a random time of year to jet off for a quick break. But anyway, Adam, you have stepped up into the competitor's chair. Gosh, this is a mixed metaphor, isn't it? It's a great way to start the show and a note of confusion. Because our weekend show is very different, isn't it, to the weekday show. It is about the two of us each nominating what we think is the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable business story, a sleeper story, one flying under the radar a little bit, and then our favourite business-ish story. And usually it's me versus Sean, and Adam, you are the judge. Of course, with you competing, we need another judge. And last week, we were joined by Tim Burrowes, the owner of media and marketing industry newsletter Unmade. And look, objectively, I think we could all say that Tim probably did the best job of judging we have ever heard on this podcast, ever, objectively. And he made a good decision in the end. And that decision was that I was the winner. Tim, welcome back.
It's lovely to be back. It's lovely to step up into the judge's chair, even if it does make me a bit sad, because it's felt listening to the podcast a week. The two of you have been so harmonious working together in Sean's absence, and
Not now, Tim.
It's going to end in acrimony and confrontation.
Today gets nasty, because I had a taste of victory last week, and I've got to say I really liked it. So I am here to win. I'll do whatever it takes. Shall we jump straight into the biggest story? Can I just ask quickly first, Tim, what are you looking for? What are your criteria for winning stories today?
You know, I often think about Adam's criteria. In the end, I think I do realise that I do love the melodrama and hyperbole. I kind of, I think I fall for that a little bit. I'm one of those very easily led people who, so at least for the very moment after someone's finished speaking, I kind of nod along and think, that's a really good point. And then kind of I come out of a hypnotic field a few seconds later. But yes, I think the hyperbole might be what gets somebody across the line today. We'll see.
Oh dear.
Oh, well,
I'm up against it then.
This is good news. And Adam, keeping in mind that Tim said that he is swayed and
By
then
a little theatrical flair. Yes.
by a little bit of theatre, you go first, I'll go second, and then Tim can deliver his judgment. So take it away with the biggest business story of the week. What was it?
The biggest story of the week is the shocking state of Australia's economic growth. This week, the latest figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics revealed a meagre 0.2% rise in GDP for the June quarter of 2024, and that's just 1% growth for the entire 2024 fiscal year. Now, Tim, let's put this in perspective. Excluding the COVID-19 pandemic, this was the lowest annual growth since the early 1990s. That's over 30 years, when we were just crawling out of a recession. Even worse than that, as our population has grown, our economy has not. GDP per capita has declined for 6 consecutive quarters, dropping by 0.4% in the latest figures. This is not just a slowdown, this is a per capita recession. It's no wonder so many Australians feel like they are stuck in economic quicksand. So what is driving this? Obviously, the high cost of living has pushed the household savings ratio to a 17-year low. Consumption is shrinking. Discretionary spending fell 1.1% in the June quarter. Private demand is flatlining, and the home building sector has contracted by 3% over the past year. The only reason we're not technically in a recession is government spending, and that is federal and state government spending, propping up what's left of our economic growth, and that is a very thin lifeline, and it doesn't really change the reality for households and businesses that are feeling the squeeze. Tim, these are not just numbers. They're a sign of a nation grappling with serious economic challenges. This is the week's biggest story, because it reveals the data affecting the livelihoods of most Australians. Michael, over to you.
Whenever anyone refers to consumption, does anyone else just instantly think tuberculosis? Or am I just really old?
Well, nice diversion, Michael, but no.
I don't know. Now you come to mention it.
You will not be able to unthink that now. Anyway, that's what I'm dealing with at the moment. My biggest, that was a good story, Adam. It was a large story this week. I'm not going to do what we kind of tend to call an Aylmer, a Sean Aylmer here, and combine a whole bunch of stories into one, because that's not allowed. If I was going to do that, which I'm not, I would group it all under the banner of a turbulent week on markets, right? And then I would tell you about the concerns about the US economy that hit Wall Street during the week and then flowed onto the local market here, wiping nearly 2% off the ASX 200 in one day, because those would be big stories on their own.
Yes.
But instead, do you know what they are? They're context. They are simply context for the story that I'm going to tell you. Because if I was to pick one standout story from markets during the week, one standout biggest story, it is chip maker NVIDIA, because the company recorded the biggest one-day tumble in value ever for a US stock, with shares falling 9.5% in one day. Just consider the size of that for a second. It is a drop of $278.9 billion US dollars in one day, or about 415 billion Aussie, more than 1.5 Commonwealth banks, our biggest company. And this isn't just about the company's results, which we discussed last week. This is potentially a bigger existential question about AI, because analysts are starting to ask about the demand for AI outside of the tech sector. Is it there? Does it exist to the level at which it can justify the extraordinary growth and value of NVIDIA and other companies in the similar space? And in doing so, it's raising some fundamental questions over one of the key themes, the key drivers of markets now for some time, the seemingly inexhaustible growth and appetite for AI and technology. This might have been the week where the gloss starts to come off and reality starts to set in. You put it all together and consider what you really need to look here is the long-term impact of this readjustment, not just here, not just in the US, but for markets right around the world, that one of the key themes driving markets might have shifted upon its axis this week. This was the biggest global story of the week. Tim, judge really quickly.
Well, before the magical field wears off. Hey, look, this is a tricky one. And this talk of per capita recession, everybody knows that the only sort of per capita anyone wants to talk about is when it's the Olympics and we're trying to claim that Australia is best for gold medals.
Yes.
Which is the only other time we ever seem to use the phrase per capita. But Michael, you put your finger on a topic that we were discussing in the unmade Slack channels, the NVIDIA fall. Although unfortunately it was me being a pedant and pointing out that poor old NVIDIA had fallen all the way to the price it last was 3 weeks ago.
This feels like a minor detail, Tim. Yeah.
So it's a quibble. So I am going to give the first round to Adam.
Well, Michael, nice try. But I think content won on the day.
Oh, savage. Well, look, I'm going to move on to the most remarkable story because, and look, I chose a global story for the biggest story, big picture stuff. What I've done for most remarkable is really gone back home, because the most remarkable story this week is very close to home for many Australians. It's all about property prices. And yes, Adam, I can see it in your eyes, your complaints here, because I'm always going on about real estate and house prices and blah, 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 because I about every second week I bring this up, whether it's most remarkable or biggest or sleeper story or whatever. But this week we saw something truly remarkable. First, a 0.5% surge in national prices in just 1 month. But it is not a consistent story. And this is where it gets really, really remarkable. We will look back in, say, 2050 or 2060, and we will look back on 2024 and go, do you remember when the market split? And not just into two different streams, but it splintered into all these different paths because you've got Brisbane growing, Perth growing, Adelaide growing, Sydney too, a little more slowly. Melbourne is slipping. Actually went backwards in August. And now this is really quite significant.
Can we get a Friends Romans countryman in there somewhere, Michael?
It does feel a little bit like that, doesn't it?
I'm starting to regret saying that I'd be looking for the hyperbole.
I haven't started on the hyperbole yet. Sorry, that's still coming. This part, just pay very close attention. Tim, keep your pencil tightly gripped.
Pen is in hand, ready to go.
The median house price in Perth and Adelaide is now higher than the median price in Melbourne. Can you believe this? Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, all more expensive than Melbourne. It all comes down to supply. Unsurprisingly, there's more on offer in Melbourne, and that's keeping prices down. But as I mentioned before, as I alluded tantalizingly before, this is not a tale of two cities anymore. It is not a two-speed housing market. It is a case of every city for itself. We are seeing the property market running about a dozen different races now. The medium-sized capitals like Perth and Adelaide surging, Brisbane still going strong, Sydney in the middle, Canberra slumping, Melbourne going backwards, Darwin, Hobart struggling. And those cities that are booming, well, how long can that go on for? Interest rates are still high. The cost of living is still high. Households are still cutting costs. The property market in Australia has become more than a spectator sport. It is becoming a chaotic basket case of supply and demand and interest rates and population growth, and it is all just completely, utterly remarkable. Adam, over to you.
Great flourish.
God, I got fired up there.
Didn't you, though?
I felt it.
Well played.
I felt it deep within.
All right, back to the content. Tim and Michael, the most remarkable story of the week this week has to be Star Entertainment's spiralling corporate downfall. This is stunning. Listen to what's happened over the week. Last Sunday, Star's executives held emergency meetings, desperately trying to find a way to relax their debt obligations. On Monday, Star was suspended from trading on the ASX after failing to publish its financial results. We're talking about the basics of requirements here, bookkeeping. They still hadn't got it done, but after a devastating report from the New South Wales regulator that we discussed last week. But the story didn't stop there. By Tuesday, the situation had worsened again as the United Workers' Union raised the alarm about the future of 8,000 workers in Queensland and New South Wales. As discussions between Star and its bankers drag on, these workers are now facing immense uncertainty and financial insecurity. On Thursday, Star confirmed that it was reviewing its liquidity, but that news only underscored the bleakness of the situation. The Financial Review reported the Star's bankers are pushing back hard, demanding more security over assets and government concessions to consider short-term debt. Meanwhile, Star still hasn't published its financial year accounts, leaving the company in complete flux. Star's situation is so dire that it could be put up for sale if it can't secure new capital or navigate this crisis. Tim, this week's developments paint a picture of a publicly listed company that is totally out of control, affecting thousands of lives and shaking investor confidence. Star Entertainment's downfall is a cautionary tale of corporate failure and the most remarkable business story of the week.
Well argued, both of you. Now, this one is tricky for different reasons. I think Adam has made the case well for what is certainly a remarkable story. What I really like about Michael's, though, there are a couple of really great rhetorical flourishes. I think particularly the ability to use the phrase truly remarkable and then talk about a 0.5% increase and sound like you mean it. That was very impressive. But yes, I loved the phrase chaotic basket case. I feel like that would be a great band name.
Good idea.
yeah.
Maybe a support act to Oasis.
Yes, it really would be. And also, it could also be used to describe the star as well, I think.
Yes.
So I've actually struggled to split this one, so I'm going to split the points on Remarkable.
Oh dear.
So exciting.
20 points each.
So, okay, so we're looking at 1.5 to half right now. So I'm not exactly winning.
Neither of us are, Michael.
But not too far behind either. All to play for.
Adam, you are winning at the moment. It's 1.5 to half.
Not by enough for me. I can't call it a win yet.
Oh, that's not the margin that you need because
right.
you know what's coming, don't you? You know that this is going to be big. This is going to be. I have got an absolute cracker of a sleeper story, and we're going to take a very quick break, and then I'm going to unleash the cracker of a sleeper story. Sometimes when you're just searching for those words.
I thought we'd got into the break for a minute there.
No, God,
So did I.
the pause was
drifted
so
off.
long. No, just building suspense. Quick break, and we'll come back with the sleeper stories. All right, Adam, we are looking for a sleeper story of the week. Now, remember, a sleeper story is one that's flying under the radar a little bit or is going to become a bigger story further down the track. And as you said yourself last week, and you added some really powerful clarity around
Some guidance.
the sleeper story, which is that the story must have been lit. The fuse must have been lit during the week for it to become one of those stories that becomes a bigger story down the track. And I love that.
I liked the fact that resonated with you last week.
Oh, I've printed it out and I have kind of stuck it around because I'm going to remind Sean of this. And I'm going to remind Adam of this next week as well when he's back in the judging chair, because I suspect he tends to forget. Anyway.
I kind of like this competition thing. I might need a role change.
Oh, God, can you imagine if it becomes a 3-way competition between me, Adam, Sean, and Tim? You are just then permanently judging.
Oh, we'll have to do it at least 1 week, won't we? It's been a while since I've had a chance to judge the Oracle of Orange.
Oh, the theatre of that would be quite extraordinary. Adam, give us a bit of theatre for your sleeper story.
Look, theatre's not my strong suit, as you know, but I'll give it my best shot. Tim, the sleeper story of the week for me is that the federal election campaign has quietly kicked off this week in stealth mode. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese might not have officially announced it, but it's clear that campaigning is on. This week, the Prime Minister launched a strategic cash splash in WA, a key battleground for the next election. He's rolled out a multi-million-dollar jobs and skills package tied to the AUKUS agreement, plus $8 million for a plastics innovation hub, $250 million for an electric bus terminal, and there's more. WA is crucial. Labor picked up 4 seats in the last election and really needs to hold them to avoid slipping into a minority government. Meanwhile, Treasurer Jim Chalmers caused a political skirmish when he described the Reserve Bank interest rate settings as smashing the economy. He later walked back from these remarks, stressing cooperation with the RBA, but supporting the federal government's economic management credentials is clearly part of the broader election strategy. Adding to the political landscape, Bill Shorten announced on Thursday that after 17 years, he plans to retire from federal politics in February 2025. Now, many in the Canberra media gallery immediately took this move as a signal that the election won't be held before Christmas and is more likely to occur in March. So, Tim, this stealth campaign launch in WA, combined with Chalmers' strategic messaging and Shorten's planned exit, sets the stage for a high-stakes federal election. And for me, it's the sleeper story of the week. Michael.
Oh, good one. It is a very good one because it does feel like this week was the week where it just started. It really did start in earnest.
The fuse was lit.
Yeah, the fuse was lit. The fuse was lit for a spectacular second-place sleeper story, Adam. So well played. I am genuinely excited by my sleeper story today because I think it might be the best one that I have ever found. I don't want to overhype it.
However.
Do you not? Are you sure?
Yeah, really?
Well, okay. I want to give it just the right amount of hype. Let's think together, the three of us. put our heads together and think of some of Australia's biggest, most recognisable companies. Let's say, how about this for a list? I'll put it together. You guys can just sit back. You've got oil and gas giant Santos, Suncorp Group, QBE Insurance is another one. Cochlear is a good one. Centre Group, which of course owns Westfield Shopping Centres, very recognisable. These are all household names, right? And they've all got a market cap of around the $18 to $24 billion mark. They are incredible brands, big companies, big Australian success stories. Now, imagine a private company flying under the radar, growing to the equivalent size in just 9 years, and then being snapped up by US investment giant Blackstone in a deal worth more than $23 billion, the equivalent of all of those other companies, those household names that I just listed. This is the story of AirTrunk, the great Australian success story that nobody's ever heard of until this week. AirTrunk, a data center business riding the surge in demand for cloud-based storage and the AI boom, it now takes its place among the biggest deals in Australian corporate history. What on earth? This is remarkable. Pretty good for a 9-year-old business, and well played indeed to Robin Cooder, the founder of the business, who saw the opportunity, who backed himself and is now a billionaire because of it. And he's not stopping there. He has vowed to get AirTrunk to a $100 billion business. So I know I've already got you to mark other things in the calendar earlier in the show, but get your pens back out, get your calendars back out, and mark this week in the calendar, once again, a big red circle around it. The first time many of us outside of the tech sector will have heard the name AirTrunk, but this week it takes its rightful place in the pantheon of extraordinary Australian tech exports alongside Atlassian and Canva and the rest. It is the ultimate sleeper story, and I am genuinely excited by it. And Tim, I know you are too.
Hey, look, I'm a little excited by AirTrunk. It does feel interesting.
That doesn't sound good.
No, this is. I'm trying to find ways of giving credit because it's, again, Adam grabbed the most, I guess, obviously big sleeper story of the week, which of course then, how do you sort of balance? Well, was it an open goal? Do you give as much credit for a goal scored through an open goal as you do for something where you have to work a bit harder on? Which I suppose, if you think about the rules of football, you in fact do. So I might be answering my own question there. So I am going to give it to Adam, but very, very close on points. So although that does put Adam on to 2.5 to half. The actual scores out of 100 are still quite close, so we could go into favourite with.
Could go into extra time.
Yes, if we go into extra time and Michael scores an absolute zinger from the halfway line in favourite, then you never know. Could still get there on marks out of 100.
Well, especially considering my final story is going to be fueled by a sense of injustice.
Isn't that your resting state, Michael?
Yes, generally it is, but I am representing the people, and just keep that in mind, okay, Tim. That you don't want the people against you.
No.
It's going to be very hard for you to turn this one around, considering it is 2.5 to half a point. But we'll do our best. Adam, would you like to go first?
Did you just tell the judge it was hard for him to turn around?
Yes.
Or either that way, he was talking to himself.
No. Look, I will deliver the goods.
Of course you will. Yeah, that was never in any doubt. Clearly.
I will deliver the goods in terms of the story. It is up to the judge to find a way to give me 2 points for it out of a maximum 1 point available. So anyway, that's on you, Tim. That's on you. Meanwhile, Adam, give us your favourite story.
All right, I will. Tim, look, do you travel regionally occasionally?
Oh, sickening. This is disgusting.
That's shameless. Yes, Adam, funnly enough, I
What a
do quite a
coincidence.
lot. How could you possibly have known?
What a coincidence. Tim, not that sort of dictated my flow of stories. My favourite story of the week is the game-changing $1.6 billion deal between Optus and TPG. So this 11-year network sharing agreement backed by the ACCC could significantly reduce Telstra's dominance, particularly in regional Australia. So just last year, the ACCC blocked a similar $1.8 billion deal between Telstra and TPG, but this time they've given the green light to Optus and TPG's collaboration. TPG, which owns Vodafone, will now triple its access to mobile sites, allowing it to cover more than 1 million square kilometres, up from just 400,000. And for Optus, this deal is a massive win in the 5G race, expanding its regional 5G sites from 1,500 to over 2,400 by 2030. But what does this mean for customers, the all-important customers? Simply put, there will be more choice and most likely cheaper prices. For too long, Telstra has been the only viable option in many regional and rural areas. This deal changes that, offering customers the opportunity to switch to a different telco network, potentially driving down prices and spurring innovation. And the impact on Telstra, while they remain the biggest player, this deal will double TPG's network size, increasing competition in the market. Telstra's shares dipped on the news, while TPG's shares rose, a clear signal of the market's expectations. Tim, and as you know, or as you just happen to know, this isn't just a story about a deal. It's about shaking up the status quo in Australia's telco landscape. The deal has the potential to reshape the market. It's a communications game changer for anyone who lives or travels regionally, making it my favourite story of the week. Michael.
Oh, that was sickening. You have played the judge.
No, look, that just is a coincidence.
Oh, well, I would never stoop to that level. Tim?
Yes, Michael.
Do you have any kind of interest in media and marketing? How do you feel about politics?
I guess I have a passing interest in all of those things.
Well, there you go. It might interest you to know then, just casually, that the US presidential election is going to be the biggest digital advertising blitz on record. Now, this is just extraordinary, right? We're only talking about one side here. Kamala Harris is planning a $370 million cross-media campaign over 3 months. 370 million US over 3 months. She has described it as the biggest online ad buy in the history of American politics. So keep in mind that Kamala Harris and her team, they have a massive, massive war chest to work with here. There's something like $540 million worth of political donations to her campaign. Now, these ads are going to be everywhere. $200 million to digital ads, $170 million to TV. There is going to be memes. There's going to be viral content as well, all to engage the younger voters, of course. But my question for both of you is, because I'm genuinely curious about this, how would you feel if you were one of the grassroots donors here? Because about 42% of the money that's been raised has come from small donors. That is considered to be people donating less than $200. There are 631,000 of them. 631,000 ordinary people who have donated a small amount, less than $200. How would you feel knowing that your donation is going to be sucked into the enormous black hole that is digital advertising, that is going to go to Meta or to TikTok or to Google? If you were just an ordinary Jimmy or your everyday Lucinda, wouldn't you want your donation to go to something more meaningful within the campaign? Like, I don't know, kind of the Kamala Harris snow globes or thinking of advertising, like a banner pulled behind a plane along the beach at Miami, Or, and this is thinking right out of the box, pay someone to sneak into the cornfields of Iowa, squash all of the corn down into the shape of Kamala Harris's head, maybe Tim Walz as well, if it's a big cornfield, and they have some very big cornfields there, so I reckon you could
like
fit
a
both
Mount Rushmore of the ground.
Exactly. And then after they've squashed it all down, just poof, disappear into the night. A political crop circle. That would be grassroots donations well spent. Think of the media that would generate. The small donors to the campaign would be getting absolute value for money. And maybe, just maybe, Kamala Harris could be the first candidate to use crop circles to get into the White House. I rest my case. I don't actually know what case I'm arguing here, but I rest it.
Well, thank you, Michael. I do find myself asking whether we should have a whole new category for the sort of the
bizarre,
the wild fantasy of the week. But hey, look, I must admit, I did not expect Michael's argument as the co-owner of something powered and funded through digital advertising to be arguing against digital advertising. So well done for being a turkey arguing for Christmas.
I'm a corporate free spirit. I just go wherever I need to. And also I'm a bit of a weather vane. I just kind of, and really, I just want to see some crop circles. Is that really too much to ask?
They've gone out of fashion, haven't they?
They really have. Like, when was the last time you woke up and saw a crop circle on the news?
Well, since security cameras sort of removed the farce, I think that kind of interrupts things.
Oh, Adam, next you'll be arguing that they weren't caused by aliens in the first place.
Adam, please.
Just silly.
But I need to have a little bit think about these things because this US election spend, it did catch my eye during the week because, I remember Sir Martin Sorrell, when he was the boss of WPP, always used to talk about the quadrennial effect of sort of both the Olympics advertising spend and the US election, because, of course, the two things used to always come together in every 4 years, and how they would lift the whole US economy and then the world economy. So it is a topic that's sort of close to my heart, and it sort of feels like the last couple of cycles it hadn't really happened. So that was my first thought when I saw it. So that was, that was well argued. And then Adams is, he's definitely been a bit shameless in sort of pandering to me. Not least because my little corner of northwest Tasmania, yes, I am in fact only on Telstra. And of course we, as you might have heard, we had some quite high winds in our corner of the world. So once the power went out, the Telstra tower went out a few hours later when I guess its battery ran down or whatever happened. So yes, that's close. But in fact, I have scored it to Michael, which makes it on points. If I've added it up correctly, does mean that on rounds Adam has won by 2.5 to 1.5, and on points Adam has also won by 84 points to 83 points.
So we're neck and neck over 2 weeks.
Yes, that's very true. You are actually. It's been 1-1, hasn't it?
And there was only 1 point separating us last week, I think.
Yes, I had forgotten that. Yes.
I don't know how you scripted that,
wow.
Tim, but well played. And look, for anyone who just heard Tim's story and wants to hear an expert media view, but also just a summarising of the excellent adventure of the Tasmania weather, go to the Unmade podcast and have a listen to last Monday's episode. It's a cracker.
It was not my finest hour.
Oh, but what a story.
I won't give any spoilers here, but yes, if people do happen to listen, even if it's just the first couple of minutes, then yes, I do share that I'm not as good in a crisis as I thought I was.
The panic sets in. That is outstanding. Tim, thank you so much for your judging. I was hoping for a repeat of last week. Maybe I needed to make more of the crop circles this week.
Hey, always a pleasure and never a chore.
Thank you so much. That was Tim Burrowes, owner of media and marketing industry newsletter Unmade. And thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Tim.
Make sure you're following the podcast and please join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook and X. I'm Michael Thompson and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great weekend.